All right, and welcome everybody to the Seeing Ability podcast. We're having a conversation about the world of people with disabilities. That means we're going to be talking to adults who grew up as that kid with a disability. We're going to be talking to parents who are raising kids with special needs or who have already done that job, and a lot of people who support that community. So it could be folks working with nonprofits, could be folks in healthcare or in education. Now, we're super glad that you took the time to listen to us. I know you've got a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts, so thanks for tuning in with us today. As if you're a first-time listener, we try to keep our episodes brief. That's always a challenge because we've got some awesome guests, and I feel like I could talk to them for hours, but I'm going to do my best to keep us on track. Now, we always start off the podcast with getting to know our guest on a kind of personal level. I call it the Fast Four. Our friends at Reliable Tech Help are the sponsors of the Fast Four. So if you have IT needs, call Reliable Tech Help. They're at 502-797-7399 or reliabletech.com, reliabletechhelp.com, and that's tech with a K, not a CH. So we've got Jerry and Crimson on the podcast today. I'm going to do kind of a lightning round with each of you on the 4 questions of the Fast Four. Are you ready, ladies?
Yes.
Ready.
Okay, fantastic. Number 1, I guess we'll start with Jerry, then go to Crimson. What is your favorite guilty pleasure kind of junk food?
Ooh, a bag of chips and some salsa. Homemade salsa.
Salsa. Crimson?
Mine are chips as well. Anything sweet, chips. Yeah.
Salty chips. I got it. All right, Jerry, for you, favorite streaming show?
Ooh, most recently Queen Charlotte, but I've introduced Kaylee to the good show Sister from the 90s because she needs good TV. So we've been streaming that together.
Okay, I love it. Crimson?
I've actually been on my second round of Wentworth. It's on Netflix. Yeah. My dad got me on that.
Very nice. All right, Jerry, how about if we looked at your playlist, what would be a song on it?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Probably anything from I like old country and Southern rock and roll. So it's gonna be broad. I listen mostly to podcasts and the Bible. So
there you go.
Not much music these days.
And Crimson, playlist?
Mine is all over the place as well. I mean, you've got everything from Snoop Dogg to Reba to Audio Adrenaline. I mean, there's just no in between. It's literally hit and miss. So
I love it.
I shuffle whatever the good Lord gives us that day.
And then last but not least, if somebody were to whisk you away to a favorite, say, vacation destination, Jerry, where would that be?
If I'm going to the beach, it's going to be Panama City. Otherwise, anywhere with a lake and a boat and a fishing pole.
Okay. Crimson?
I'm going to go with anywhere kind of, just secluded mountains, just anywhere where it's just you and whoever you're with.
I can see our listeners, you're both painting a picture. Everybody's thinking, okay, I'm ready to get on that plane right now.
Right.
But we have a conversation to get to. So I'll start us off with, and both of you, we're going to talk a little bit later about the work you do with the amazing nonprofit that you guys are involved with and that started and got going. But first, let's kind of talk about you as moms on this journey. I've had the pleasure of talking with both of you in more detail doing research for the book I'm working on. So I know a little bit of your backstory. Our audience doesn't. I kind of focused in on 2 topics of the long list to focus our conversation today. The first is that curveball, dealing with the acceptance stage of traveling a journey that's different when you have a kid that's going to face extra challenges. And then the second, I'm excited to get to a little bit later, and it's always the one we never get to, which is the topic of self-care. So let's talk with, our listeners don't know your backstory, so maybe as I set up acceptance, we'll start with you, Crimson, and maybe go to Jerry. You can each tell us just a little bit about your family, your story, how you got into this world, and then what was this acceptance journey like for you? Maybe what did you learn from it, take away, and I guess ending with what would be your advice to folks kind of going through it right now?
So with our family story, I already had a beautiful baby girl that was 100% healthy, had no issues whatsoever. I got pregnant with my second child and she was born. We brought her home 2 days after she was born on Thanksgiving Day. And what seemed like a very different experience with my first daughter quickly became a life or death nightmare. At 3 weeks old, we found out that Kendyl had actually contracted meningitis, and it completely cooked her central nervous system. So we were told that she would not live to be 2 months old, but she will actually turn 13 on Thanksgiving Day this year. So it's a huge, yeah, it's amazing. But she is very severely disabled because of the virus that attacked her central nervous system. So she's in a wheelchair, she's nonverbal, she's G-tube fed, she has epilepsy, she has 7 brain tumors, she's partially blind in both eyes. So it's a lot. And to someone who doesn't know her like we do, she's very intimidating. Just to look at her, it's extremely intimidating. So the first 3-4 years of Kendall's life, it was very, very difficult. I had no idea how to be a special needs mom. And it was one of those things where you just figure it out as you go. But it was really, really difficult to, mentally, spiritually, physically keep up with. It was draining. I was angry with God. What did I do to deserve this? What did my family do to deserve this? What did she do to deserve this? And there was a lot of just anger and guilt that stopped me from seeing a lot of the beauty of the gift that I was actually given. I truly believe that God gives each one of us a gift. Some of us have multiple gifts. I was created to be a mom. I am an amazing mom. I don't take compliments, but that is one that I will never not toot my horn on. But I looked at it all wrong for the first 4 years of Kendall's life. What did I do to deserve this? What did I do in my past? And it was like, it was not the way to look at it. Literally, I woke up one morning and it was like somebody had just, punched me in the gut of, I have totally been looking at this all wrong. It wasn't what did I do to deserve this to happen to me. It's what did I do to get to be the person that raises this amazing child. I don't know what I did to deserve it, but he thought I was worthy. And I think that seeing it from a different perspective has really opened my eyes to the gift that I was actually given.
Wow, that is powerful. So Jerry, yes, I see a lot of nodding going on. Tell us about your family and your journey with that.
So I also had a similar story, brought home what I thought was a neurotypical child, but began to notice small things along the way and was reassured. I think as sometimes as many parents are, this kind of goes back to trusting your gut. Noticed some milestones not being met that my other child, her big brother had met. And, it was always, oh, he's just helping her out. He's just helping her out too much. And, I noticed her head was kind of funny shaped and, didn't think much about it because not everybody's head's perfectly round. But when she was not pulling up and cruising, you just keep seeing those milestones not met. And then I started noticing, after she had 2, what they called febrile seizures a few months apart, we just started seeing these strange reflexes. And this is when it's a blessing that I'm a healthcare provider, because I recognized that those were very abnormal. And so our journey began with that, Dr. Googling. Even as a healthcare provider, I tell people not to do it. Of course, you Dr. Google, because you're powerless and you're dumb when it's your own kid. I will fully own that. But we started... Yeah. Exactly. A little bit of knowledge is dangerous, but being the parent, it's like, oh my gosh, you just completely forget everything. Exactly. So we started our journey at this point, and I was like, I was okay with her having. I was like, she's got epilepsy, it's okay. But you're never prepared for when you get told that there's something very abnormal on an EEG, and then there's something very abnormal on an MRI, and then, oh, by the way, we can do the surgery here, but we think that you should go to Cleveland Clinic to get an opinion to see if your, little 14-month-old child needs to have major brain surgery. And I just think that it's a lot. And as a mom, you look back on yourself and you're like, what did I do? I worked in an ER. Did I get exposed to something and I caused this in this child? And because you always think it's you, just because you're a mom and it's your job. You were supposed to produce this perfect little thing, and you're having your own pity party and you're thinking, what did I do? When it's the same thing, you need to be focused on your kid. And I think you have to like get out of your own way. And once I was able to get out of my own way, I had some wonderful nurses at Cosair at the time, Norton's now, who prayed with me and just, empowered me. And then I was determined to be the expert and connect with other experts. And you just, you still have breakdowns, but like Crimson said, you have to look at it as this very exceptional child was given to you by God. And he chose you because he knew that you could do this. And I just feel like every step along the way has been a blessing. What I try to tell people who encounter things with their children or their loved ones is it's okay to tell people, no, this is not what we're going to do. So I really focus more on being the advocate and empowering people to be advocates and giving them the resources and the tools to do that. And that's how I help myself mentally feel like I'm doing everything that I can do. I can't control my child's future. That's in bigger hands. But I can control what I give of myself to other folks for their loved ones as well. So I always tell everybody, get your binder, get records of everything, because you never know when you got to go to that second opinion. Crimson knows all about this. And that's the biggest barrier. I tell everybody you have to be prepared, because that's all you can control.
Worst. And it's one of those things where, every morning that I get up, I am prepared for the worst. Like,
yep.
We have a bag packed ready to go with that binder. Literally, the binder is key. The binder is key. But, we literally prepare for the worst every single day. And if we don't experience the worst, we're like, cha-ching, woohoo, But she's right. And it can get very hard and lonely, and you got to take care of yourself though.
Yeah. You talked about this range of emotions that you went through, and then kind of a little bit of a turning point to figure out how to move on. I guess looking back, hindsight is so valuable. If you gave advice to people who were brand new, maybe they're in the NICU, that kind of thing, or somebody listening has a friend who has a granddaughter that just got born, and they know there are going to be challenges. The learning from like processing those emotions, allowing yourself to feel them, but then maybe finding a way to move on. What I guess would be your advice?
I think for me, the biggest thing is that you have to ask questions, and don't be fearful of somebody maybe not giving you the answer you want to hear. I always encourage people to keep a pad of paper and write down your questions as you think of them, because it never fails. You remember those questions when the whole team's left the room, and that's probably 5, 6, 7 people that have come through your room when you're at an academic center. And then that way you're prepared, because there's nothing more frustrating as a parent than being in that room and then be like, do you have any questions? And then you get this like dumb look on your face because, you're exhausted. You haven't slept. Your kid's making you crazy because, they're bored and stuck in a hospital room. And so when you have that little list, and it's like, you don't feel like you failed there. So you got to set yourself up to win too.
Yeah, I love that. Crimson, anything to add to that?
Yes. So 100% everything she said. Like literally, I keep it everywhere because, I'm a mom. I have a house to take care of. I have 2 jobs. I have 3 children. One of my kids has a 26-page IEP. I mean, like, I can't remember it all. So a couple of things that I would say to new parents is, grief is not only when you lose someone. And when I say lose, I mean somebody passes away. Grief is real. It happens every single day. I have experienced it. You guys have probably experienced it. It is okay to not be okay. The other thing is definitely ask questions. Ask. It doesn't matter if you ask the same question 5 times. If you feel like you need to ask it, ask the question, because you don't know what you don't know. And you're not going to get an answer if you don't ask. So do not be afraid to be your child's voice at all. And the other thing is, just like Jerry said, it's okay to say no. You have to set those boundaries, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to A, take care of yourself, and then B, take care of your family. Because I have been there. I have been on rock bottom, and literally there was nowhere else to go but up, because I could not get any lower. So definitely you've got to be an advocate for your baby, but you have to be an advocate for yourself as well.
Well, Crimson, you set that up pretty well, because that is our next topic. You know, when you're in this world as a parent, and especially as a mom, you're always taking care of everybody else. And the last person you put on the list is, oh yeah, supposed to take care of me. Self-care. So I know, Crimson, when we talked, you said you had a pretty extreme journey with learning the hard way what it's like when you don't take care of yourself. So tell us about that.
You know, kind of like you said, you take care of everybody else. The last person on your list is me, you know. I ended up quitting my job to be a stay-at-home mom, to take care of Kendyl 24/7. It has been the most rewarding job that I've had, but also the most mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally exhausting job that I've ever had. Now, when I say that, I know some people are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that about your kid. But if you don't know, you don't know. You know, when you are taking care of a medically complex child 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that cannot do anything for themselves. Kendyl can't even scratch her own nose if it itches. So I did everything for her. And if I didn't do it, then it didn't get done. But you go through this day after day after day of, you know, I should have done more with her. I should have done this with her. I should have done this a little bit longer with her. So that just sits there. So when you do that day after day after day, and when you're with someone that doesn't support you, that you have no help, you get to a point where you're like, I don't feel like I can do this anymore. And I got there. I literally got to a point where I felt so alone and so kind of, I guess, closed off from what I thought the real world was, you know, just the everyday get in the car and go to Walmart for a gallon of milk. Well, that's a 2-hour trip for us. And I'm 5 minutes away from Walmart. You know, I didn't get to have a lot of those normal everyday experiences. So I became very reclusive and shut in and didn't reach out to people. We are designed to need other people. We are designed that we need to communicate. We need to see people. We need to be out in the sunlight. Like, we are human. We have needs. And I failed to see that for a long time. It got to a point where I prayed to die. I wanted to die. I wanted to be taken away from this earth, but I didn't want to do it at my own expense, because I didn't want my children to think that that was okay. I never wanted them to get to a point where they felt like, well, my mom did this, so I can do this. But I got to a point where I wasn't living at all. I was not living. And it ruined my life for a very, very long time. And honestly, like, even though I'm in a different place spiritually, emotionally, physically, even, you know, I'm not in that same relationship that I was when it literally sucked the life out of me. A lot of things that happened then still affect my life now. You know, I'm sitting in a house with no kids, with no partner, because I neglected that for so long that when I had it, I didn't know how to take care of it. I didn't know how to nourish it in the way that it needed to be nourished to grow. Mm. Even though all this happened, 8-10 years ago, it still affects my everyday life now. So I have learned that it is okay for me to need people. It is okay for me to need to talk to my friend Jerry. It is okay for me to go sit out on my front porch and drink a beer and cry. It is okay for me to need to get in my car and drive around with absolutely nothing to do but listen to music. It is okay for me to want a physical, emotional, spiritual relationship with someone. I am allowed to have needs. I see that now. I think if I would have seen that 10 years ago, I would be living a completely different life. So my advice to everybody really, is you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of somebody else. You have to water your plant in order for your plant to grow. Because if you are stuck in the same rock bottom pit, you can't do anything for anybody else. And while you think you may be helping them, you're not. You're only showing them what it's acceptable to be as. And that's what I did for a very long time. So do not do what I did.
Ooh, thank you for sharing. I don't think on Zoom I can pass you a tissue, but I appreciate you getting real. Thank you. That is, wow, that just hit me. Jerry, I saw you reacting to and sharing her story. This
it is
self-care sometimes is this elusive, Calgon, girls' weekend, different things. What are some practical things that you'd advise people to do? I mean, Crimson ticked off a few of them, those small moments. What's it like for you when you claim self-care?
For me, maybe it's just sitting in the bathroom and shutting the door.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to work.
Yes.
and escaping the chaos of the house, or it makes you really appreciate days when you don't have anything on your schedule. When I can pull up my Wednesday when I'm off and I don't have anything but to go to the gym with my son, because that's a topic for another day, is balancing your time with your other kids as well as your significant other. I mean,
the whole podcast in itself.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
But when that's all I have on my calendar for that day, I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I want to clean house, and that makes me happy because less chaos makes me happy. So you really start to appreciate even the most minute things. My friends are happy because I'll go have dinner with them every now and then. And before, you have so much guilt as a parent, because your family helps you so much already. You don't feel like you should ask them again to watch your kids for another couple of hours so that you can go out to dinner with your significant other. And you neglect everything. And you're not a good mom unless you're in a good place yourself. And, with school, work, everything else, you neglect yourself and you get unhealthy. And for me, it took one of my very best friends getting diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer for it to hit me. Holy crap. I knew I needed to be there for my kid. I knew I should be healthy, but until you're faced with the reality of your very best friend is not going to be in your life or be in her children's life at some point, what are you going to do about it? Because not only then are you honoring your child, you're honoring every other mother out there who didn't get the chance to be in their child's lives. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing that I would say is just don't take the small things for granted. Take care of you, do fun things, just chill.
I love it. I love it. Well, the next topic, which I'd be remiss to not get to, is most listeners know I spent a long time in the nonprofit sector, about 23 years. I'm a glutton for nonprofits, which is why I'm having 2 episodes a month now, one of which is a nonprofit spotlight. And when I was in the nonprofit community, I always loved the Margaret Mead quote that said, never underestimate the power of a small group of thoughtful, concerned citizens to change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. I love that quote. And Crimson, you've kind of lived that quote, right? So tell us a little bit about what got started with those who are listening can't see the branding you're wearing today. If you're on YouTube, you can. Kendyl and Friends. Tell us the story of how your nonprofit got started and how you decided, hey, if I want to change the world, I guess I got to be the one to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I really love that quote, because I think some people believe that, oh, well, I have to be rich. I've got to be the most popular person. I've got to do this or I've got to do that in order to make a difference. And it's just not true. It is not true. I will be the very first to admit that never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be sitting here getting ready to tell this story with as much information in it as is in there, because I'm a nobody. Literally, I'm a nobody. You know, I'm not important. I'm not special. I'm not famous. I'm just a country girl from Bergen. Like, literally, that's what it is. There's like 700 people in my town. You know, it's nothing special, but, you know, we set out on this journey as I was a stay-at-home mom. At the time, Kendyl she had just started kindergarten at Bergen, and we would take a lot of field trips out to our local park. And Kendyl was always mainstreamed because I never wanted her to look at herself as, I'm different, in a bad way. You know, Kendyl has been mainstreamed with her friends, which means she goes everywhere they go. If they go on a field trip, she goes on a field trip. If they go to music and PE, she goes to music and PE. Kendyl has been sent to the principal's office. Kendyl has chores. Kendall's been spanked. Like, she's punished. I treat her exactly like I treat my almost 15-year-old and my almost 4-year-old. She's not given any special privileges, or, you know, she is normal. So when we would go on these field trips, I would literally get Kendyl out of her chair and I would pack her through the playground. And I mean, I'm not a very big person. She's about 75 pounds of just dead weight. But I would pick her up and pack her. We were going up the steps to go down a slide, and I fell on top of her. Scared me to death. She thinks it's great because for the first time in her life, she's fallen and she knows what it feels like. Over here just, you know, freaking out. But I got very upset at myself and said, Kendyl, we're not doing this anymore. That's the last time we're doing it. I didn't understand the way I was speaking to her, that she thought she was in trouble, that she had done something wrong. And it wasn't that. It was a safety concern for me. So I took her and a little group of friends, and we went for a walk around the track because, you know, Kendyl was no longer able to play. And we don't sit on the sidelines and watch. We participate. So we started talking, and we're like, you know, we really need to build a playground that Kendyl has equipment on that she can play with her friends. So literally that was day one. Went home, started researching. 5 months and 22 days later, myself and a small little group of friends had fundraised enough money to build what is now the first Kendyl and Friends playground in Harrodsburg out at Anderson Park. And it just started from there. Like, Kendyl and Friends playground was the seed that we continued to water. We did not realize the lack of resources that individuals like Kendyl and Kaylee have. We didn't see it, even as special needs parents. We didn't see how many people needed a voice, needed someone who was not afraid to go talk to somebody and them tell them no. Somebody that wasn't scared to go out and fundraise, somebody that wasn't scared to go out and educate people on individuals like our children. So we started Kendyl and Friends Foundation, and it's just kind of bloomed from there. We actually just opened our 10th all-inclusive playground on May 20th in Louisville, or Bullitt County.
I was there in Fairdale. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I saw that. I couldn't be there. My little cousin got married that day. So I was not able to be there. But, that's our 10th all-inclusive playground. 100% of all 10 of them have been from our group of board members and our teams in each place, fundraising, going out and educating others. It's a collaboration of a lot of different individuals that have different gifts and different techniques, and we collaborate together and work together. Just, it's phenomenal to see how many different people come together to make these projects happen. So, it's just one of those things that we wanted to make sure that in our lifetime, we at least planted that foundation for somebody else to grow off of, because as much as I'd like to think about it, Jerry and I aren't going to be here forever. I'm liable to kick the bucket tomorrow. I don't know, but I'm hoping that something that we've done will stick and pave the way for other individuals like our children later on down the road. I tell Kendall all the time, she's the next Rosa Parks. She's the next Dr. Martin Luther King. I mean, without people who aren't afraid to go out and try, we wouldn't have the big changes in the world that we do. So for us, it's just educating others about what it means to be inclusive. What do we do in order to make sure that everyone is included so that they can be a normal part of their community? So in addition to the playgrounds, we do an all-inclusive baseball league. This will be our 8th year that we've done that. And we're super excited. And I'll let Jerry kind of chime in on this too, but we're super excited. We've bought some land and we are laying down our foundation. We are building our Kendyl and Friends foundation, we're laying down those roots, but it's going to be a game changer for not only individuals, but families and caregivers. And it's just going to be awesome. So I'm going to let Jerry kind of.
Yeah, Jerry, I was going to ask you, I'm going to have to debate Crimson on her being nobody, but what's it like? What's it like to work with this lady? You and our listeners, you could hear her passion to be on the board and to watch her do her thing. What's that like?
It's an experience like none other. We came and played Overcomers. I guess it's 2 years ago now. This will be 3 years coming up this year when we start the league this end of summer, beginning of fall. But I was there in the stands at the games and I just saw her and I was like, she wears too many hats. And I was like, what can I give? What can I give? And I pulled her aside at the end of the game and I was like, hey, I have a little bit of fundraising experience with our dear co-host over here in a prior life. And I was like, I really enjoyed it. Was decently successful at times. I said, so what I don't have the ability to be at every event, but what can I do as somebody who lives a crazy life, works a job and now living in 2 states? And so you find your talents, just like, the Bible talks about all your different talents. I have different talents. I can write, I can network, I can connect people. And so I was like, okay, here's what I have to give. Do you want it? And Crimson was like, well, duh. And so, we've just kind of grown it from there. And it's an amazing group of parents and community individuals who have young kids, grown kids who are doing big things, even in the world of ability and inclusion. And, it's a group of passion that want to make changes. And this field is our field of dreams. And, it's going to provide those avenues where we can bring parents in. And I don't know about Crimson, but, we all learn something from somebody else. When you're desperate trying to pay your daughter or your son's bills because they're piling up from therapy, from doctors and everything else, because you're just trying to use private insurance, you meet another mom who says, hey, why don't you check this waiver out? Your kid could be eligible for it. And then it completely changes the course of your life. I mean, it truly is life altering, that networking that you get, because you feel valid. Somebody else is going through this and experiencing this, and you feel heard. And then you share that knowledge with somebody else, and like, it's my goal when I meet other parents, like, I may not even know them that well. I'll just be that nosy person that overhears them say something. And I'm like, look, hey, I got something that might help you.
Yeah. Now you have made it, you ladies have made it difficult on me, because I know people want to listen to you guys for like 2 hours, but I got to kind of land the plane here. So if folks want to know more about Kendyl and Friends, where can they go? Tell us about your website, that kind of thing.
Jerry and I were actually just talking before this podcast. We're in the process of revamping our website, getting more information out there. As Jerry said, I wear a lot of hats. And at the time, I don't know, 5 years ago, we did have a full board, but I was still doing everything. Every single person on our board has a full-time job, including me. I have 2 full-time jobs in addition to everything I do for the foundation. So there's a lot of hats. I am also, you can mark this down, the least tech-savvy millennial there is. It is terrible. So, like, my daughter showed me how to turn on my Bluetooth on my phone. Like, that's bad. But, I'm learning every single day on, how to build, create, all this stuff. So for us, we're in the process of revamping things so that we are more modern and up to date and up to speed. But Kendyl and Friends Foundation.org. You can Facebook, Twitter, which I'm not a tweeter. I don't know how to do it, but we do have one. Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, so they can find you if they want to get involved. They might want to support the cause. Maybe there's some people who want to volunteer, or they want to learn what you did because they want to do a playground in their neighborhood, or they're part of the world, because we've got listeners all over. Ladies, I can't thank you both enough for being here today. I know I enjoyed listening, and I'm sure everybody listening enjoyed hearing from you. We started something new on our Facebook page for the podcast, and that's Jerry's been involved in that, which is Touchdown Tuesdays. It's my little way of creating a place for our kind of kids to be able to be celebrated. They're not always the ones on stage, not always the ones getting the trophies. So if you check out our podcast Facebook page every Tuesday, there's a post, and then you can leave a comment bragging on your kid, or tell your friends who are out there to connect with the community and do these brags. We're trying to get this podcast in the ears of the people who really need it, those parents that don't even know it exists and would love to connect to folks like these lovely ladies we've had here today. So I could use your help to go like the Facebook page, follow the podcast, and then share it on your social media so other people can hear it. Obviously, if you've got someone that you think would make an excellent podcast guest, please send me a message and let me know. Ladies, thank you so much for being here today. I loved it. Kendyl and Friends, check them out. Folks, we will see you next time on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.